It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. And I am deeply grateful to Rotary generally. I've been widowed for 15 years, but my wife passed away of a really rare cancer. And there were only 2 doctors in St. Louis that actually even knew anything about this cancer. So we went down to MD Anderson Hospital in Houston. And there is a hotel called Rotary House. And it is sponsored by Rotary. And it is for cancer patients and their families, and it is connected to the hospital. There is I remember, this was years ago now, there's a travel agent who was like set up right there in the lobby, so that if you needed anything, if you needed to change a flight, you just walk down there, and it was all free. Thank you very much. This organization, you helped me out at a very dark time in my life, so thank you. I love being in East Alton. My dad worked his entire career at Olin Brass, and so even though we've always lived on the Missouri side, East Alton was just part of my childhood. So it's always fun to be back. So I want to talk for just a few minutes about collecting. Now I am sure that there are all kinds of collections in this very room. So this is your chance to fess up. I collect St. Louis stuff. What do you collect? Just shout out a couple, because I know you're collecting.
Dust bunnies.
Dust bunnies. I collect those too. Shot glasses, very popular. Jump. With a QUE on the end, right? Lots of good sports memorabilia out there. What else do we collect?
License plates.
License plates. That is awesome. There are some, it's always neat, I think, to go through like antique malls, because there are people who will specialize in that, and they'll sell these license plates. And honestly, when you go through an antique mall and you see these booths that specialize in stuff, those are collectors. I can tell you, if you go to South County Antique Mall and you see the one that had all the old paper, that's my booth, because you see, I gotta buy a bunch of stuff, keep what I want, and then I have to sell the rest to feed my habit. But I think of 3 components to collecting. There's always going to be some kind of a theme. It could be a sports theme. It could be, for me, it's St. Louis. Some people collect types of things like paper products or books or something. So there's some theme to it always. And then the collection has to be managed, because things come in, things go out, things have to be arranged. And then there's sharing the collection. And that collection, sometimes, like, I collect old paper stuff, so I do spend a lot on framing, and yeah, that gets expensive really quickly. But you can frame it, display it in your house, maybe get a display cabinet. You ever watch that show on TV, American Pickers?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that people have so much that they've got a whole barn full, or the house on the back of the farm is just full of collectibles. And so I really think that I think that somehow sharing the collection with others is always important. Tell just a quick story in each of those 3 areas. So I started my theme really out of my family history. My family's lived in St. Louis a long time. Actually, everybody came from Clinton County, out by Carlisle Lake, a little place called Germantown. That's where my family came back in the 1840s, and then moved to St. Louis shortly after that. And I was just so interested in my family's history that I started picking things up. And I remember at age 16, I found a medallion from the 1904 World's Fair, and I had heard stories from my uncles, my grandparents, about going to the World's Fair. And that's really what set me off. It was kind of getting to know my family. And when I would find something old, I would think, maybe this old bill or this old coin was something that crossed my ancestors' path. And so I've always enjoyed that very much. And then after I got into academia, I started collecting things around my research projects. And this is sort of what I've done ever since. I did a lot of work in East St. Louis, been working in East St. Louis for 25 years, and it is really sad to see a place that's losing so much of its history. And most of my research is historically grounded. I try and explain, how did we get to where we are today? And so tracing things back in history is important. And so I just started looking on eBay. And it's amazing what's out there on eBay. And you know, I'd see one dealer is like selling a bunch of postcards or photographs or something. And I just would email the guy directly and say, I'll just buy everything you have. Because somebody told me that's how you get the good stuff. If you say, you know, you're cleaning out grandma's attic, I'll buy it all. And if you do that, you can get a good price and you get the good stuff that way. So there's a little tip for collectors. And anyway, it just started pouring in. Once these dealers started knowing that, hey, there's a guy who buys East St. Louis stuff, all of a sudden they're coming to me saying, hey, I was at the Belleville Flea Market and I picked up this big collection of, you know, do you want it? And so the stuff started finding me, which is a wonderful problem to have, except my basement is stacked, you know, this high, and you have to wedge your way through it. So a lot of my collecting has gone through my, has been tied to my academic work. It has been difficult to manage sometimes. I've enjoyed displaying things, and I really want to encourage collectors to, really share to manage their collection in a way that things are available to people. And there are a lot of affinity groups on Facebook and other social media where you can post pictures of some of the things that you have and share them that way. And I mean, really, Pinterest is all about sort of an online collection of images. So there's a lot of affinity groups out there that would probably love to see your collection, and you could probably meet some really neat people that way as well. I think it's really important to protect pieces, and there's one guy who has these pictures that I've sent around are from some old postcards that I collected. And there's this guy, Henry Breakstone. I just wrote his biography, and hopefully it'll be published here in 2017. And he took these pictures of really all over Illinois and Missouri and Indiana. I really like his work, and there's one guy who has some very rare photographs. This photographer was known because he took pictures of the Cardinals and the Browns back in 1908, the 1908 season, 09, 10, and 11. And these are some of the rarest baseball cards out there. And they're really real photograph postcards. Anyway, he keeps them in a safe deposit box. They're locked up. I said, I would love to have one of these images for my book. And he goes, well, you know, they're hard to get to. They're very deep. And I get that it costs a lot of money, but I don't know. Some people like to protect their things and manage them by keeping them locked away. And I personally like to walk through my house and see everything and be reminded of it. So that's all an individual choice, and it's all okay. But as far as sharing the content, I think it's important that collectors do share their collections. And I would encourage you, if there's a high school event or a library event or a church event, invite a personal collector to come. So if you're having a book discussion group, there are lots of book collectors out there. Invite somebody to maybe just put a little table out like this of just some interesting items. And I think that there are probably collectors, there are people who would love to just see a display and learn a little bit about license plates, for instance, and the design and the thought and how they've changed and evolved over the years. I think people just really, really enjoy that. And again, it could be, you know, at a PTA meeting, at a Rotary meeting. Just invite a collector to come and show. I think that's good for the audience, and it's good for the collectors as well. At some point, we're all going to be finished with our stuff. We're temporary. A lot of our stuff was here before we are. We'll be around after we're gone. I donated about 1,000 pieces of my East St. Louis stuff to SIUE's archive, and it has been a really good research collection, because there is no East St. Louis Historical Society. And what the university has done with that, it's digitized a lot of it. And so you can go to the SIUE website, just type in Historical Society as a search. We created the virtual East St. Louis Historical Society. And it has photographs of these objects, and it has photographs of photographs of the old pictures and postcards and things that are in the collection. Even documented digitized some of the reports, so you can read some of the books and the old directories. It's just a wonderful collection, and sometimes donating to a place like a university it allows the university to put it out there for everybody. So until there's a historical society in East St. Louis, there's one on the SIUE website as well. I'll just tell you I'll end with two quick stories. Now we can talk about some questions. First, my uncle gave me some baseballs that were autographed with the Cardinals in the 60s. It was really great. I was never much of a baseball fan. Always loved the Cardinals. But I knew that these were really, really special, and I liked them, and I liked to have them out. And so I put them in these beer steins I had up in my windowsill. And the sun baked them every day. And all those beautiful autographs were faded by the sun. So it is important if you're going to collect autographs and things like I do. Now my house is really dark. No sunlight is allowed. Anyway, I did learn that the hard way. But on the other hand, my house got flooded in 1993, and a lot of houses got flooded in 93. I have a book from 1556, and I was standing down there, and I realized what was going to happen. I'm watching my basement fill with water, and I just thought, I can't save everything. I can't save anything. And then all of a sudden in that moment, I just thought, stuff is not important. That it's people that's important, and safety. So I'm going to get out, my wife, we're going to get out, and I said, but I'm taking this book from 1556. I said, somebody's kept it for 400 years. It's not going to disappear on my watch. And so that was the only thing I saved. Thankfully, the water didn't damage the house too much. But